title of this today I want to talk about is 9 Dangers to Our Faith in God. Just like Jeremy Camp wrestled, there's a guy named Abraham Lincoln wrestled. I read a book this week called Lincoln's Battle with God. Very interesting book. And the subtitle there, A President's Struggle with Faith. And Abraham Lincoln, as we know, was shot on Good Friday, 1865, right when the war was finally ending at Ford's Theater. He and his wife were there, and they were talking. And his last words, he was saying, you know, when I'm done here as president, we need to travel. We're going to go to the Holy Land. We're going to see the steps of the Savior. I've always wanted to go see Jerusalem. And when he said that, John Wilkes Booth shot him, which he died a few hours later. Which sounds like faith. And why this is called his battle with God, because if you read about Abraham Lincoln, you know his whole life was like a battle with God, was a struggle with faith. His mother was a Christian. Both his parents were Baptists, were Christian. He said, everything I am, everything I will be, I owe to my mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln. And he was close to his mother. She was the one who let him go to school and get education, read his books. Father said he don't need to read, he just needs to work. And so he was close to his mother, but at 9 years old, he saw his mother suffer a bad death. She was sick a week there with what they call milk disease. And the last thing she said to him was, Abraham, you be good and kind and you worship God. But when he got to be a man, he went around some people who were skeptics. He read a lot of books about skepticism, and with his grief, by the way, also his older sister died. He was very close to her after his mother died. So then she died. So it was in his grief and in his reading all these skeptics that he decided he didn't believe in God. He started to write a book about why you shouldn't believe in the Bible, why you shouldn't believe in God. And so this is the kind of battle that Abraham Lincoln went through all his life. Towards the end of his life, after Gettysburg and other things, he started believing in God again. And so I put this because this is an age-old struggle with faith. And if you haven't had a struggle, okay, good. But I'm telling you, a lot of people have, and they are now. People are leaving church. I don't know if you know, but in Europe and America, people are quitting going to church. And part of that's got to be faith, because if you really believe, man, I believe you get out here. But young people are believing, now a lot of them are not saying they don't believe in God anymore, but they don't like the church, they don't know. And so there's a struggle with faith going on right now, all over. And there always has been. Even back, we see, to the ancient times of the Bible. And there are dangers to our faith that I don't want us to have to give into, because our faith in God is important, and I still believe. It says in Hebrews chapter 11, it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to Him must believe that God exists and that He rewards those who sincerely seek Him. Now here's the problem. When people suffer grief or trouble, an illness, a breakup, relationship problems, money problems, a lot of times they either believe there is no God, or they believe, well, He's not good. What use is praying? What use is going to church? What use is being the good? In other words, they don't believe He's a rewarder of those who sincerely seek Him. And the Bible says if you want to please God, you must believe that He is, and that He is good. And that's where a lot of times the struggle comes to. He either isn't a God, or He's not good. Well, we know He is good, but there's where the struggle of faith is. So I want to talk about 9 dangers, and since there's 9, I promise to take each one quickly, okay? 9 dangers to our faith. Number 1 is wrong expectations. We expect it to be perfect life. I'm a Christian now, everything's going to go right. Well, we know that's not true. 1 Timothy 6 said, yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into this world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. And it says in 1 Corinthians 10, the temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. In other words, others have felt this temptation and fight including with faith. So what happens is, if I expect that I'm just never going to have any problems, and I do have problems, I say, what is wrong? Why me, God? Why me? I like this quote from a guy named Scott Peck. M. Scott Peck wrote a book, The Road Less Traveled, and this is how he started the book. Life is difficult. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Or one guy added, well, it's less difficult anyway. Do you get the understanding there? If we expect, here's what happens. We expect no problems because I've been good. And if you're good, you don't have any problems. Now I do believe, and I'm scared about this sermon because I don't want to knock anybody's faith down. Shouldn't we expect God to give us good things? Yes, we should. And He does. But what we don't want to expect is promises that He never made. He never promised that we wouldn't have any trouble. He never promised that if we're good, then everything will be good in our life. He never promised that. So what we do is that we expect, well, I'm a Christian, so it's all going to be good. I live in America, man, everybody, this is a land of prosperity. I'm in the 21st century. They got something for everything. Or I deserve it. And all of these things, when we expect it because we are Christians who serve God in a prosperous land, then we're not going to have trouble. And I guarantee you're going to have trouble. So I am not trying to knock anybody. I'm not trying to put down, belittle any trouble you're going through. But I just don't want us to get these, this is what can hurt us, a danger to our faith. We expect that it's all going to be good and it isn't. So don't expect things that God didn't promise. Number two is like it comparing. Comparing. A peaceful heart leads to a healthy body. Jealousy is like cancer in the bones. When we look at what somebody else has, well, they got a promotion. Why didn't I get one? Now we're a little bit jealous. We feel like we did. We were all right. We liked our job until they got a promotion. You know, or we look at somebody else's house. We like their house till we watch these TV shows and, wow, look at that place. Wish I had a shower like that. I say that because that's what I always told Sandy when we watched those shows. I wish I had a shower like that. You know, or a kitchen like that, or a 3-car garage. And, you know, we were happy with our house till we saw that one. Or our car. It drives good, but then the neighbor got a BMW or a Lexus or a Hyundai. Well, maybe that one. Hyundai. Or their health. We compare, say, I get sick a lot. They never have any trouble. They never get sick. You know, they lived a long life. And my loved one died younger. And comparing can cause us also a danger to our faith. Let's live the life God gave us and not compare to other people. That's dangerous. Another one is barring others hurts. Look at this verse in Hebrews. Let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive His mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most. In other words, when I got trouble, I go to God, God helps me. But if I start looking at your trouble and I get mad at God about your trouble, He didn't promise He's going to give me the grace to help you with your trouble. And a lot of times, what has happened in the world today is we have way too much input. We know about everything. Before it was just television, now it's the internet, and we carry it all around our pocket. And we're constantly bombarded with bad things that happen all over the world. And we know about a tsunami over there, and an earthquake here, and a plague outbreak over there. And we know about a family that committed suicide or a shooting in the school. And we know all this immediately, and all of it bombards us and say, God, what are you doing? But that can be dangerous too. We were not meant to bear the troubles of the world because we are not God. Now, I'm not saying you don't pray for them or have But you can't take it and I can't take it. We can't take all the troubles of the world. We're not big enough. And if we start borrowing their hurts and getting mad at God over them, He doesn't give us the grace to deal with their problems. So that's a danger. 10 years ago, in December of 2012, there was a shooting. I think it's still the worst school shooting in America. 26 people were killed, and Sandy Hook was an elementary school in Connecticut. 20 of them were 6 and 7-year-olds, and 6 of them were teachers and administration. 26 people killed, and then the guy turned a gun on himself and shot himself. The guy where I got this title, Disappointment with God, he was asked to come up there because he'd written some of these books and speak. Philip Yancey. He said, what am I going to say in the thing? So he did. A big church there had him speak. They didn't know if anybody would come. This was right after the shooting. They had a couple special services. The house was filled. Hundreds, 1,000 people showed up. First responders, parents. The house was filled with people. What is he going to say? He didn't know what he was going to say, but let me quote one guy. He said first, Volf is his name. He said, those who observe suffering are tempted to reject God. Those who experience often cannot give up on God. The soulless. You see what he's saying? If I just see it from there, I'm mad at God. But when it happens to me, I can't give up on God. He's got to help me. That's what he said. They gathered after the shooting, and of course they're trying to find out who's alive and who's dead. They gathered in the fire hall across the street from the school. The parents who still hadn't met with their children. And after 4 hours there, the parents were there. The counselors were there. The governor announced, I'm sorry, there are no more survivors. And there was a wail of grief that filled that building as the parents cried out when they knew their children were dead. How do you deal with that? He said, you cannot protest, though, against evil in the world if you only believe in a good God. Observe, can't see from my crying. Otherwise, a protest doesn't make sense. If you don't believe in God, a good God, how do you protest? It's just normal to have all this sin. And so he got up, Philip Yancey said, he got up and he said, instead of asking where is God when it hurts, I'm going to ask where is no God? Where is no God when it hurts? If you believe no God, what do you got? What is your answer if there's no God? Filmmaker Ingmar Bergman says this answer, the modern answer. You were born without purpose. You live without meaning. And when you die, you are extinguished. Who wants to hear that answer? Nobody wants to hear that answer, especially if you just lost your child. That answer ain't good. And it's not enough. And it's not really what we need, and it's not the truth. So they know the parents there were the ones who did not go away from believing God because they needed God. So I'm telling you, we need to be careful seeing all these troubles in the world. And I've read a lot of people, that's what they do. They take, how is God when we see this problem and that problem and this problem? And they borrow all these hurts. And they blame God or say there is no God. And that's a danger to our faith too. Don't borrow other hurts. Let God help you with yours. Number 4, making decisions in the dark of the night is dangerous. I don't know why it is, but I think differently at 3 a.m. than I do at 3 p.m. Anybody else like that? You ever wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking thoughts? You know where all my thoughts go? Negative. And I'm talking literally and figuratively here. Literally in the middle of the night, my thoughts are negative. But also when it's dark in our soul. It's night in our soul. And what we're going through stuff. That is a bad time to make important decisions. I don't know. I'll just give you this. For almost every Saturday night since I've been preaching, I wake up in the middle of the night and I think negative thoughts about my sermon. Nobody's going to want to hear this. Why in the world did I come up with this stupid sermon? This is the worst thing I ever thought of. I think of that almost every Saturday night, all my life. That may be just me. And then I'll go back to sleep. I wake up and I say, I don't know why I thought that. This is pretty good stuff. And I ask myself a question almost every Sunday morning when I get up. Do I have to say something, or do I have something to say? Because there is a difference. If you just have to say something, you're going through the motion. But if you say, I have something to say, and when I think about it, I say, I've got something to say. I'm going over there and preaching. Now, it's a difference between the middle of the night and daytime somehow. And we got to be careful of those middle of the night thoughts, because they're usually not good. They're thoughts of God, you're wrong, you're doing wrong, it's not right, I can't do anything, everything's going to be bad. Be careful of those thoughts. Don't make decisions. Go back to sleep, trust God, get up and pray, and then you see it's won't be as bad as you thought it was. So be careful of that. Number 5, angry about personal comfort more than the needs of others and the work of God. You know the story of Jonah. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and preach. The Nineveh was the enemy of Israel. He didn't want to go. He got swallowed by the whale. Anyhow, he finally goes to preach, and what happened? They repent. And Jonah hated it. What in the world? He got mad at God. He went outside of town, and it was hot. And then this plant grew up that was big enough to give him shade. So he said, I'm going to sit there and watch if God's really going to judge him or not. But I sure do like this shade. But then a worm came and ate that shade, and now it's hot again. And so God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry because the plant died? Yes, Jonah retorted, even angry enough to die. Then the Lord said, you feel sorry about the plant, though you did nothing to put it there. It came quickly and died quickly. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people living in spiritual dark, not to mention all the animals. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city? In other words, Jonah was mad about the plant more than it was about 120,000 people. Now, again, I'm not talking about if you have great grief for somebody that you love died, or if you have a bad diagnosis. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you get mad because I want to get a new couch and I still got to get this same old couch. Why is God not treating me right? Okay? Let's not get too upset about personal comfort in a country where we have a lot of personal comfort. And not make that a thing where we're mad at God, again, a lot of times because of comparing. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to have a new couch. But let's not get too upset with God if we don't get everything we want. That's what I'm saying. There's a danger there to our faith. Be unthankful is a danger. Because you can start whining and feeling self-pity and being a victim, which is popular in our country today, to be a victim, and start feeling yourself as a victim and sorry for yourself till you think that you've got nothing to be thankful for. That's a dangerous place to be. A dangerous place to be, unthankful. So easy to lose your faith when you're not thankful. I'm telling you, in this struggle I've had over the last several months, one of the things I've had to learn is find things to be thankful for. And I write in my book. I have a book I started since Sandy died. And I write down things I'm thankful for, besides also my grief. I am thankful that I had 45 good years with a wonderful person. I'm thankful that I have 4 children who have stayed so close to me. I'm thankful for my grandchildren, including the one born last Sunday. I'm thankful for my church family who receives a grade of A+ for loving their pastor through a crisis. I'm thankful for my friends from all over who have been so kind. I talked to 2 more who called me from 2 other states this week, still checking up on me. I'm thankful for all my physical blessings, and I have many. I'm thankful that God listens to me and still loves me. And I'm thankful that I will see Sandy again, and I will go to a world of no more curse and no more death. So we have things to be thankful for. And it's dangerous if we quit being thankful. It's dangerous not talking to God. Now, every once in a while, Sandy and I had a good marriage, but we weren't perfect. I know you didn't need that announced, but I'll just admit it. We weren't perfect. And there's sometimes when we'd get to fussing with each other, and we'd quit talking. Or we'd talk just in clipped sentences, going to the store. Okay. That'd be our communication for the day, you know. That is not a good place to be in. You got to have some communication to bring that back to where it should be. We had decided early on in marriage we would try to never go to sleep still angry with each other. We almost made it, except for a few times. There were a few times we were so sleepy, he said, we got to go to sleep. All right. But you know what? And then the next day we usually talked it out. And boy, that was so much better. Talking together, getting it figured out, asking forgiveness where you needed to, and being able to talk again. It is a dangerous place to be, to not talk to God. Even if you say, God, I don't feel like praying, tell Him that. Tell Him why. But tell Him, it's a dangerous place for your relationship with God and your faith if you quit talking to Him. And I hope you have it a practice where you talk to Him every day. Number 8, not getting help. Not getting help. When you're struggling, some people just want to pull away and be by themselves. That's the wrong thing to do. I mean, there are times you need to be by yourself, but not all the time. We need to be around other people that can help us, close family and friends. And some of you have been those ones there for me and others. We need to be in church with each other. We don't need to say, I'm going to stay away from church. We need more than ever to be in church. One of the hardest things I still do is getting up on Sunday morning and coming to church. Because I'm so used to me and Sandy coming together and praying together before church and talking about what's going on, and now it just brings it more real. But you know what happens? Every time I come to church, I feel so much better. When I've been there to worship God, be with my friends, you can't just go on your feelings when you feel like this, I'm just going to stay home. And I say this as many of you are watching this film. You need to get together with your other Christian family. That'll help you, not hurt you. We need to get help. We need to listen to some useful sermons. Read some good books. I've probably read 15 books in the last few months on this kind of subject of dealing with grief and faith in God and all of these things. Maybe more than that. And they have helped me. We need to hang around with people and with Christians who care about us, who know something about God, and have some help. We all need that. And I'm not just talking about when you lose a loved one. I mean when you're going through other things. A job situation, a marriage situation, a health problem. Don't just go into this thing here and don't talk to God and don't talk to others. One of the worst things you can do. It's dangerous to your faith. And we just should not give in to despair. Well, it's nothing's good. Yeah, my family must be cursed. All the bad things happen to us. Or it's me. I don't know why God's getting on me, what I've ever done. Or I just have everything bad in my life. There's no hope for any good thing. Or why even pray? Or why even try? That's despair. I'm not saying we're not tempted to that. I think, Elijah was. There's a guy who just had a great victory on Mount Carmel. And you heard the queen was after him. What did he do? He goes there and said, God, you might as well kill me. Nobody's serving you. I might as well. He immediately was tempted to go into despair. I know that can happen to all of us. But we can't give in to that. With God, there is hope. Always. Don't give up. Don't go into despair. There is hope. Have faith in God. I still believe. Several years ago, I had a preacher friend, he's dead now, who was a POW, prisoner of war in World War II. Parachutist, got captured. One day, he and I are going to a conference together, just he and I in a car on a long trip, and I started asking him about his experience, and he told me, very interesting. But I remember one thing he told me. He said, you know, we never did lose hope. It wasn't fun in that prisoner of war camp. They didn't really treat us good all the time. But we never lost hope that America wasn't going to quit till they got us out of there. And we always had hope. And they did. And I want you to always have hope that God is not going to give up on you till He gets out of here. This is a war zone. We forget that. We think it's a picnic. It's a war zone. There's a war going on between the forces of evil and the forces of God and good, and we're stuck in the middle of it. And in war, you can't always expect everything's going to go good. But you can't expect that a good God is not going to give up on you till He takes you out of this place. So don't give up on God.